What's up, everybody? And today we're checking out how military snipers evolved. This is by the legendary Task and Purpose. We've watched plenty of their videos in the past. They are absolutely phenomenal. So when someone recommended me this, I thought, well, it's got to be a no-brainer because their videos are legitimately fantastic. If you want to go over there, subscribe and comment on their videos, definitely go and do that. It'll be in the description. It always is. You know all about it. First part of the description, the original video will be there, so you can go over to their channel and check their stuff out. And it's very important that you do that. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We're incredibly close to 500,000, guys. We are so close to subscribe if you haven't already, and we will have a party. Other than that, let's shut up. Let's pull this up and let's learn about snipers. Actually, I want to grab something real quick. Let me just grab something real quick. Got a book that I want to mention in this when he talks about the history of snipers, and I want to get people's thoughts on it, but let's get into it first.
Snipers weren't always the highly respected specialists that they are today. For decades, they were seen as unsportsmanlike, nothing more than filthy paid assassins. Today is obviously nothing like that. Snipers are trusted with all the high-speed, sneaky missions, tasked with taking out enemies' top-ranking officers and generals. Glad I never got high enough in rank to rate a sniper's bullet. I knew getting busted down to private would pay off. In this video, we're gonna take a look at the evolution of military snipers, from their humble origins in the 1700s to their modern, technologically advanced shooting. Then we'll try to imagine what type of new tactics and weapons snipers are gonna deploy in the future.
Okay, he said, so the humble origins in the 1700s. I read a book last year. Dan Jones, Essex Dogs. Let me pull it a little bit further away. Very good book. Very good book. I genuinely really enjoyed it. In fact, so much so that I bought the sequel. I haven't read it yet, but I am very excited to read the sequel. And it's about a bunch of British mercenaries during the 100-Year War, which they go into France, and it's the whole trek through the war. And it kind of acts like, if you're a big fan of Band of Brothers, check this out. Because it's, if you can imagine the Band of Brothers, but in, you know, the 100-Year War era. And so a long time ago, basically, where it was mostly archers, although the French won the 100-Year War because they eventually got rifles. But yeah, I digress. Anyway, they're walking through a town, and there is a church tower, and someone's shooting a crossbow out of a church tower. And he mentions the word sniper. Now, the 100-Year War is set. When was the 100-Year War? I just want to get the exact date. 1346, roughly. And so, was the word sniper... I was reading it, and I was like, was the word sniper even used around then? Like, is that an error? Because this guy, Dan Jones, is a historian. And so, you know, it would be very... I don't know. I don't expect him, out of all people, to make a mistake like that. I feel like he is very on top of stuff like that, so I believe him, but I'm questioning it. So if you know anything about it, if you've read this book, which please go and read it, it's very good. Essex Dogs by Dan Jones. It's historical fiction, by the way. Yeah, I was just a bit confused, and I wanted to reference that because I want to know the word sniper. I know it was because they would shoot a bird called the sniper, something like that, or something weird. Let's see what they say in this video, and we'll find out.
Remember to snipe that like and subscribe button before we begin. We can actually trace the roots of snipers all the way back to before the invention of firearms with the crossbow. In 1199, King Richard I of England was busy ransacking a neighbor's land. One day, while casually walking around the battlefield, a early days enemy crossbow sniper fired one shot at him, which killed him. This started the long-standing tradition of going behind enemy lines and taking out a high-value target with one shot, one kill. A phrase that has lived on in the military to this day in the form of military chants that never, ever get old.
So he said 1199, so he's right. He is right here. I knew he would be. Dan Jones, the guy's, he writes a lot of history books as well. He's very good. I just remember reading it and being like, is that right? Does that make sense? I'll put the book here in the background. In fact, I'm going to put the book there and I'm going to put the sequel there, and you can check them both out. Please go and read them. Please. If you love military stuff, you'd love it. Let me put the sequel there as well so that at the end of the video, people can see what it looks like. That way people will go, it's right there. You can see them both. Definitely go check them books out. Here we go.
This reference to the term sniper comes from the 1700s when British soldiers were stationed in India and they would shoot rare birds called, oh, quiet.
Oh, wait, but the first reference to a sniper was the 1700s. So was he wrong? Dan Jones, was he wrong? The first reference to a sniper was the 1700s, but the first practice of a sniper was 1011. No, what did he say? 1199. So was Dan Jones wrong? Is it wrong that in the 1300s during the 100-Year War that you could say sniper? Someone let me know in the comments.
Here comes one now. This is the snipe, a species of wading birds that have a long, slender bill and eyes on the top of their head. They're incredibly alert, and they startle extremely easily. They rarely stay in the open for long and are so insanely hard to hit. It took superhuman levels of patience and endurance to wing shoot a snipe while it was in midair. Bollocks! In the 18th century, we know from letters that were sent home by English officers who were stationed in India that they made reference to, quote, going sniping. So then it was just simplified to sniping and then sniper.
Interesting.
Between 1820 and 1917, the creation of rifled barrels, advancements in glass manufacturing for high-powered scopes became more commonplace. So by the First World War, the term sniper was the perfect phrase to describe the rising category of soldiers who were excellent marksmen and they didn't quite fit in as regular old grunts.
I feel like the idea of the sniper has all of a sudden, it's almost become a cool thing, hasn't it? Like it's oh, you were a sniper. I think it's like a really kind of prestige area to be in the military. I had a friend of mine who went snipes in the Royal Marines, and mad respect for the amount of work they have to do. And people don't realize that it's not just the shooting. There's a lot of build up, moving to certain areas, camouflaging yourself. There's a lot of work when it comes into being a sniper. So I think that, obviously there's special forces snipers, but there's also regular Royal Marine snipers. And I think that as soon as you attach the word sniper to someone, it almost gives them that extra little bit of prestige, doesn't it? And I think they deserve that. I really do. But I also think there's a lot of other areas in the military that people kind of go unnoticed when it comes in stuff like that. Like the mountain leaders in the Royal Marines. Some people say that they're even better than special forces. The mountain leaders, if you haven't searched them, they're absolutely unreal, the stuff they can do. I want to say better. It doesn't really matter, does it, at the end of the day? They do different jobs, don't they? But, yeah. I feel like I don't really need to say any of that because it is about the job at the time, innit? And you can't say one's better than the other in any way. But yeah, anyway, what I was saying at the start is it's become a cool thing to be, and I think a lot of movies and video games have helped in that instance as well.
By the American Revolution, firearms were more of a precision instrument. So you had the Pennsylvania rifle that spun ammo like a football, giving its rounds greater accuracy in the right hands. Timothy Murphy was the American military's first ever expert sniper. And during a battle, his commanding officer said to him, quote, "The gallant officer is General Fraser. I admire him, but it is necessary that he should die. Do your duty." Murphy climbed up a high tree, he took aim at a distance of 300 meters, fired 3 shots, ultimately eliminating the enemy officer. This shocked all of the surrounding troops, because you have to remember at the time, most soldiers were only able to hit targets at around 80 meters. Not just shocked, but if you can believe it, it was actually seen as unethical, unmoral, and unsportsmanlike. Yeah, thanks for saving my life, but if you're not gonna do it with sportsmanship, I'd rather die.
I get, is it unsportsmanship? I mean, you're at war at the end of the day. Like, is it moving, in that beginning instance, is it moving towards guerrilla warfare at that instance? But I mean, they were practicing that in real, let's be honest, they were doing guerrilla warfare anyway. And so, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe give them a fair shot at me first. The skills of snipers continue to evolve into something much more well organized and defined in World War I. Due to the static nature of trench warfare, these early snipers were positioned to be some of the most effective soldiers on the battlefield. At the beginning of the war, the German military were the first to issue scopes on top of their Mauser 98 rifles. Unlike modern snipers, back then each army simply took their primary rifle, then they slapped a telescopic scope onto it and called it a day. Now you're a sniper, now you're not a sniper. Now you're a sniper, now you're not a sniper. Now you're a sniper, now you're not a sniper. Snipers were such a paradigm shift that British soldiers actually thought Germans were just getting lucky with a few random headshots. Then they captured some scope rifles from the enemy, and it dawned on them that this was a new form of warfare that they were.
It's interesting. The history of warfare for me is one of the most fascinating subjects, and it's why I like reading a lot of historical fiction as well, like Essex Dogs. Just the way the people innovate during war just far exceeds anything else. Innovation is so rapid during war. It's incredible.
We're up against. But the new technology presented a new challenge. Training troops in the complex, difficult knowledge of how to use and maintain these new scopes was a big undertaking. This wasn't a plug-and-play situation. The scopes needed to be individually adjusted and sighted, and you needed to make sure it didn't lose its zero if it was knocked up against something. Especially with the early scopes, snipers needed to understand new shooting problems, like how wind affected bullets. French Major Pritchard said, quote, "The men using them had, in most cases, hardly any knowledge of how their sights were aligned." So you see how a scope could be actually a worst-case scenario if someone doesn't know how to use it. But every time a sniper school was started, it would be abandoned after the war, as everyone was certain that this war would be the last. And they were totally right. It was all sunshines and rainbows after World War I.
Yeah.
World War II era snipers evolved the trade by using purpose-built solutions that distinguished them from their lowly plebeian infantry peers.
I'll never forget that scene in Band of Brothers where they have that sniper. Oh my God, what a scene. If you haven't watched Band of Brothers, I don't know what you're doing. One of the best shows ever created. But that sniper scene is probably one of the most terrifying and brutal scenes you can think of, isn't it, really? Not knowing where something comes from for a split second, this panic, this chaos, and then you pin down, and then you're like, what do I do? And your friends just sat there. Oh.
Snipers used the M1903A4, while regular troops used the M1 Garand. Soviet snipers caught on a little quicker, realizing the potential here. They were some of the highest trained soldiers who would begin to incorporate some bushcraft into the job, like learning how to hide and use terrain against the enemy. One of history's most famous snipers, Vasily Vysev, is credited with being one of the Soviet heroes who helped win the Battle of Stalingrad against the Germans. Some claim he invented the tradition of using a teammate or spotter, but in World War II, many snipers still worked alone with just the emotional support of their rifle.
What was that guy from Finland that was like unbelievable? It was known for being like one of the best snipers. I forgot what his name was.
Captured behind enemy lines, snipers were often treated differently than other captives. They were immediately shown the rope. Chapter 6 of the U.S. Army Doctrine of FM 3-060 says, quote, "Historically, units that suffered heavy and continual casualties from urban sniper fire were frustrated by their inability to strike back effectively. They often have become enraged. Such units may overreact and violate the laws of land warfare concerning the treatment of captured snipers." Which leads us to the next step in sniper evolution, which focused on having your battle buddy there to back you up. Vietnam-era snipers. After World War II, the Army disbanded their sniper school yet again because of the lack of understanding of their value. According to the DoD defense numbers, during the Vietnam War, your average everyday infantryman fired out an absurd 50,000 rounds of ammo for every enemy soldier killed.
My presumption is as well, like, sniping in the Vietnam War would be way different because of the foliage as well. Like, you imagine how difficult that is. Like, it's almost as if you don't see the enemy until they're really, really close. I'm sure there are parts where, you know, there's open ground, but for the majority of the time when you see footage in Vietnam, it's in the jungle, it's jungle warfare. And so a sniper would be incredibly effective if they're able to do the job correctly there, right?
U.S. Army snipers, on the other hand, fired only 1.3 rounds per kill. Cue the one-shot, one-kill chants that we all love and need at 5:30 in the morning PT formations. One shot, one kill! The numbers didn't lie. Top Army officials were starting to realize snipers' effectiveness. By this era, the sniper had evolved their tactics now to employ the use of a spotter, which changed the game. Contrary to popular belief, the spotter with the telescope, the binoculars, is actually the one that's often more senior and experienced of the two, because his job requires a lot of know-how. They're the ones doing the notebook math to determine the bullet drop, they're calculating the distance, shooting angle, slant, mill-related corrections, and they're figuring out how much a target has to be led by before shooting at it, all while communicating their progress to higher up in the chain of command.
This is what I was saying about when it comes to being a sniper, there's so much more to it than just shooting a cool weapon. There's so many layers to being a sniper, and that's what I think makes them soldiers so effective. Yes, the bushcraft and the camouflage and the moving and the positioning is incredibly important, and that in itself is like a whole, you know, profession. Then you've got the calculations needed to make the shots. That's also another whole area of the profession. Then you've got to take the shot and you've got to be steady. You've got to have a good positioning. You've got to understand position. You've got to understand how the weapon's shot and how it moves when you've pulled the trigger. There's so many different, you know, areas that you've got to be incredibly knowledgeable on.
Spotters on sniper teams also keep a lookout for nearby enemies who might be poking around. They're typically armed with a semi-automatic weapon as opposed to a sniper's bolt action because it's better suited for close-range engagements if they're discovered. Technology was starting to boom now too, so you had the 20-round XM21 rifle that had a variable optic instead of a fixed scope, or it also had a PVS-2 Starlight scope for night operations at this point. By the Vietnam era, snipers had really entered the cultural zeitgeist, to use a fancy term that I have no idea what it means. An old legend has it that a CNN reporter asked the Vietnam sniper this really loaded question, quote, "What do you feel when you take an enemy's life?" The sniper replied, "Recoil." Whether it happened or not,
oh, brutal.
Doesn't really matter. It's undeniable that it became a popular barroom tale because it encapsulates exactly how the public views the mythos of the sniper. They're seen as emotionless, only noting the physical reality of squeezing the trigger and feeling the recoil. But the truth is, snipers have to be incredibly in control of their emotions. Canadian sniper Sergeant Buck said, quote, "We need the kind of soldier who can turn the remorse button off." The Army carefully chooses their snipers not simply for their ability to shoot, but also for their emotional stability and outlook.
Yeah, like you think about what you're actually viewing down that scope and what you're able to see. Like it is a different ball game, isn't it? I'd have to ask my friend. I don't know if he's actually still serving or not. I think he's left the Royal Marines now. But I'd have to ask my friend to come onto the channel and have a chat about being a sniper.
Carlos Hathcock is the stuff of sniper legends, with 93 confirmed kills in Vietnam. Even his name, Hathcock, sounds like some kind of firearms pun. The guy was born to do this job. He was so effective that the enemy sent a counter sniper known as the Cobra to personally take him out. While tracking the Cobra, the sun glinted off his scope. Hathcock saw that light reflection off the scope, and he eliminated the enemy's sniper. The shot went straight through the enemy's scope without touching the sides. Something so legendary that Hollywood has copied it a zillion times, enough times that it seems cliche now. In 1987,
it's true. I didn't know it was actually a real thing, that. Oh my God. I mean, did they actually prove it? Did they prove it? I mean, there's a lot of war stories that are a bit embellished, aren't there? But, I mean, even the fact that he got that many kills is legendary in itself.
the Army recognized the value of creating an official U.S. Army sniper school. Finally, they established this in the 80s at Fort Benning, Georgia. Go 30th AG! And it's a good thing, because snipers were about to face the massive challenge of the asymmetrical battlefield. Would they be able to evolve and meet this challenge? The evolution of snipers from the year 2000 to the year 2022 can be characterized as advancements in sophistication and technology. Weapons have become far lighter weight with higher calibers, thanks to polymer production methods. New calculations must take into effect when making a shot past 1,000 meters. Snipers now have to account for things like the curvature of the Earth with the Coriolis effect. I guess
that's mind-blowing, that, isn't it? Absolutely mind-blowing. You're shooting at them distances where you're thinking about the curvature of the Earth. Oh my God.
That means flat earthers like me don't qualify to become snipers? Discrimination, I say. I demand we talk to HR. Asymmetrical warfare in Iraq and Afghanistan meant our troops often faced the wrath of enemy snipers. Snipers are a cheap but effective tool against large, technologically advanced armies. They would wound one soldier in order to hit anyone who would try to run out and save them.
That's the thing. It's a trap. It's a trap. Quoting Star Wars, but it's true, isn't it? Like, you shoot one person, it causes that chaos, and the people move out of cover, and they're trying to help the friend, and it literally does cause chaos, especially if you're shooting someone higher up. What's this that's popped up? Friggin' Norton antivirus, get out of here.
One thing you're taught before you deploy is to never salute an officer in the field, because you'll instantly make your LT a target. The officers drill this into your head, and you'll get the shit smoked out of you if you forget. Good morning, sir.
Don't salute me if you call.
Oops. There's now advanced technology that can help troops actually know where an enemy sniper is based on the audio of their last shot. The relatively new 50
That is mind-blowing. They can figure it out with the audio of the last shot. Wow.
caliber Barrett allows snipers today to hit targets miles away. The furthest ever confirmed kill is now 2.2 miles, set by a Canadian sniper.
I knew it was by a Canadian. 2.2 miles. What the fuck? That is mental.
These large caliber anti-material sniper rifles, like the 338 Norma Magnum, can be used to target a tank's vulnerable optical targeting systems, which can effectively take a tank out of the fight. Snipers are more than just trigger pullers, often reporting enemy troop movements and calling in airstrikes. But what new tasks will be added to the sniper's growing list of responsibilities in the future? Future evolutions in sniper warfare tactics and weapons in the next 10 to 20 years will include automatic aiming systems, where the gun fires when it senses your barrel is on target that you digitally mark. We'll start to see snipers get assigned the missions of sneaking into enemy territory to set up remote control operated weapon systems at strategic locations. Then they'll go hide miles away and control the weapons from safety. These remote weapon stations will be aided by AI sniper computer assistants who do all the calculation and ballistic solutions in a fraction of a second. Brandon Webb, Navy SEAL sniper instructor, pointed out in his Soft Rep article that it'll be like the Squid Game robot come to life.
Do you know what I want? And I've shown you that book. I want a book about, and I know there's American Sniper. I want a book about a sniper. That's what I want to read. That's what I'm going to read next. I'm going to put it in my notes. I'm going to find a really good book about a sniper. I think that's it. If anyone's got recommendations, let me know in the comments. I know there's American Sniper. I read that a long time ago when I was in the Marines. But I want like a new book, or at least I don't know. It can be fiction, but I want a sniper book. Let me know what you think in the comments.
Brandon Webb goes on to paint a picture of future snipers using facial recognition cameras to identify enemies in the future. Yep, that sounds like the
God. This is terrifying when it gets into facial recognition and AI and stuff like that, and it genuinely is terrifying.
kind of dystopian battle space I want to fight in. Snipers in the future will no longer use old scopes, but what's called a fire control system, a term that's probably from the sophisticated computer-assisted aiming systems that tanks have. And it really is kind of like that. The reticle adjusts instantly, doing all the calculations of the spotter right in the scope. Less calculations will be necessary in the field.
Yeah, but the snipers still need to know how to use regular scopes because, again, like I always say, you need to learn the basics before you can do the fancy stuff, because if the fancy stuff breaks, you need to go back to Bobby Basics. Great video.
Snipers will always be a part of the battlefield. They've gone from being scoffed at and seen as less than to some of the most respected and highly coveted jobs in the military. They'll always be out there watching and waiting, making sure soldiers are being noise and light disciplined. I'm your regular infantryman, Chris Cappy. Thank you for watching Task and Purpose. Stick around for another episode while you're here. Snipers weren't always the highly respected.
Great video. As always, Task and Purpose are phenomenal. If you're not over there and subscribed already, then I don't know what you're doing, because their videos are brilliant. It'll be in the description. As always, like I always say, yeah, check out this book as well if you want to know. Let me know what you think about the sniper reference in there. I don't know. I don't know what to think about it. Maybe Dan Jones, I can ask him. Maybe I can put something out on Instagram and see if he'll answer it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We're so close to 500,000, guys. Let's get there. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's get to 500,000. Let's have a party. All right? Until next time, I love you all. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.